Faith has finally returned from camp. Hillary is up to no good again, and Tessa is way over her head in what she's about to do. Stay tuned for this week's Restless wrap-up.
You're tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AFTERBUZZ TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
I love this song. Hey everyone, this is Rachel Goodman, and you can find me on Twitter or Instagram at Rach Goodman. We have had one crazy week with Young and the Restless, and I am pretty excited to kind of dig in and start talking about some of the things that our lovely characters are doing and what some of them aren't doing or what some of them shouldn't be doing. And I guess what we should do is let's kind of get into everything going on with Victor first, because once again, Victor is doing things that I don't personally like. As my husband and I were watching, we kept shaking our heads at some of the things that Victor was doing. It was just completely ridiculous. First of all, he took it upon himself to go and visit Faith at camp. We finally got to see Faith. I started watching Young and the Restless back in maybe about May, June-ish. So for me, you guys will have to let me know if this is a different actress portraying Faith. I'm assuming it is. We did get clarification that, per Nikki, that Faith is actually now 10 years old. So we finally, at least I finally got to meet Faith, who was in the car with Victor, and Victor, first of all, so everything that happened between Nick and Victor basically just skimmed over all of it and just said that, yeah, Nick just decided to move out. Poor Faith, she's very confused. She thinks that her dad is making all these changes without even approaching her first. And it's kind of heartbreaking to see this poor little 10-year-old girl who now has to learn how to get adjusted to this new home that she, really, why would she want to go there? Her home was at the ranch with her pony. What 10-year-old girl wants to leave her pony? So, in any case, I was just very frustrated with Victor for going there at all behind Nick's back and talking to his daughter. But then also the fact that he couldn't even own up to the truth. If he was going to go and talk to Faith and tell her everything that's been going on, at least he could have been honest and to the point and could have elaborated a little bit more that, yeah, I kind of kicked your dad out. That's why he's not living there. But of course, Victor and his ways, he just kind of seemed like he was meddling, and that was that. So we start off with Victor, and I kind of knew that things weren't going to go so well between Nick and Faith once Nick actually got to see her. We have a couple people in the chat. We have Nikisha Jones, who says, "Hi, Rachel." Hi, Nikisha, and I'm so sorry if I'm not pronouncing your name right, but feel free to chime in. We're just talking about Victor and everything that's happening with Faith and Nick and Victor, and how Victor just kind of randomly decided he was going to go talk to Faith. And I mean, I get his reasoning. I get that he's trying to prepare Faith for what she's about to walk into, but it really wasn't Victor's place to do that, even as the grandfather, especially before at least talking to Sharon. If he's not going to talk to Nick about it because Nick is no longer his son, as he loves to say, then at least he could have gone and said something to Sharon and let one of the parents know what was happening. But nope, Victor had to be all sneaky about it. Hubby Joe says, and thank you for tuning in, Hubby Joe. "At first I thought Nick was wrong with the way he was acting, but the way Victor is acting now, kicking him out of the house, taking Faith's bedroom furniture, and going to see Faith to make himself look like the good guy, he deserves all the backlash he is going to get from his family." Yeah, I agree. So when everything happened at Nikki's concert, Nick was kind of in the wrong to do what he did, and it did seem like he was acting more like Victor with how he was doing it. However, the way that Victor handled it was, even from that point at the concert, I thought that was wrong. And ever since, Victor just keeps doing more things that really make me not like him. The only redeeming qualities in Victor to me is how he treats Abby and how he treats Faith, because he does look at them in a very endearing way, which makes him seem like a decent person. But I've heard Nikki and other characters say that you can't really trust that Victor's always going to be that way to people like Abby and Faith, for example. And even Nikki was saying when she spoke to Abby in the house, in the ranch, something along the lines of, you shouldn't always trust that Victor is always going to be there for you, because things definitely change, especially in this family. So even though those are redeeming things for me that make Victor look a little bit better, I don't trust his relationships with either of them, because as it's been pointed out this week, Victor I think Nick said this, Victor is the kind of guy who he only loves what he can control. And at the end of the day, Victor loves Victor, and I completely agree with that. So Nikisha says, Victor and Faith have an interesting relationship, and I agree with that. It's definitely interesting, and it's just the way he looked at her was very sweet, and he seemed like he definitely had her back, and to me, that made me pretty happy to know that this girl has someone she can call. Even when Faith goes in the house at Chelsea's house, and, she's trying to adjust to this new environment, she calls Victor right away. And I will give Victor this. He hasn't bashed his son in front of Faith. He has tried to be pretty diplomatic in front of her, but kind of in a way that is still manipulative, if you know what I mean. He clearly has an ulterior motive, and maybe part of it is that he cares about Faith, but another part is that he's trying to stick it to his son a little bit too. Nikisha says, Victor's playing a game. Victor has always been that way. He knows how he is. And then she also adds that most of his children love/hate him. He wants to control everyone. Yeah, I agree. And I've sensed that even with Victoria, for example. I don't know the history of their relationship. Right at this moment, Victoria and Victor seem like they are okay with each other. But at the same time, I did some of the research on their backstory enough to know that Victor basically tried to screw them over with their inheritance, if I have that correctly, or at least their funds. So I know that they did previously have a really bad relationship. And Victoria was very hesitant about taking a bridge loan from her father, which says to me that she's obviously very cautious about getting too close to him. Nikisha adds that Adam is the same way, just like his father. And speaking of Adam, did you guys think that they were really almost kind of hinting that Adam's coming back? I know we've been saying this the last couple of weeks, but in the last 2 weeks specifically when we're looking at Chelsea and Nick and everything that's going on with them and moving in together, Chelsea obviously isn't ever going to be fully over Adam. Obviously she's moving on with her life to the point where she's going to be with Nick and she'll establish a relationship with him and move in with him. But she even made a point to say that she would basically never stop loving him. And they have stressed Adam's name a lot recently. I have a feeling we're going to see Adam. And I know I said that last week, and I'm basically just repeating myself, but I feel like I have to, because to me, it's so obvious that that's what they're pushing toward, and that's going to add to the drama, because as soon as Chelsea and Nick find a way that they can, get used to living together, because it is clearly an adjustment for both of them, Adam's going to come back, and then there's going to be even more conflict and more tension added on top of Chelsea and Nick, who are already kind of struggling because this is so new for both of them. And we have Honey Smile 320 who just joined the chat. Hey, Honey Smile, thanks for coming in. He says everyone in his family knows how Victor is, and they still accept him back. Even Nikki is still looking out for his best interest. This is an ongoing cycle for years. I expect nothing less. Yeah, I agree with you from the sounds of it, and I know it's going to keep going on. I'm actually pretty impressed with Nikki as a character, because the way that she's handling all of this, I can tell whenever, like, for example, this week when she went to visit Victor, yeah, she still stuck up for her son, especially in regards to Faith, but I could still see a lot of conflict within her. She even said in the past, month or so, that she would never stop loving Victor. I can see that in her eyes when she goes to talk to Victor, that she does, a part of her still does care for him and will always care for him. And they do have this, I don't know, weird family together, even though there's so much drama going on with everyone right now, but they still do have grandchildren and children together. And I just have to say, kudos to Nikki, because she is handling this very maturely and with so much grace that she is a wonderful character. I don't know if she's always been like that, but I can see that, you can just see the way that the actress is playing it, that she has been through a lot over the years and she is taking this one step at a time. But I do agree. I think that Nikki does still care about Victor and has his best interest in heart. Nikisha says Nick still doesn't know Christian isn't he's Adam's. Huh, interesting. I don't know if it was, I think you meant Christian. I could be wrong. Let me know if I am wrong on that. That is very interesting, and I guess we'll see what happens with that. Taylor Jones says, I adore Nikki. I don't know how she puts up with Victor. Yeah, that's really frustrating because Victor is so awful, in my opinion anyway. You guys are welcome to disagree with me, but I think I dislike Hillary the most, but I think Victor is number 2. Nikisha says, Taylor, I think Adam is with Raf in Australia or something with Philip III. Yeah, interesting. And I did look up that history between Adam and Raf, so that would be quite curious if they both come back on the show. That, I think, would be a great way to add more to what is already going on. Honey Smile 320 says, Nick can't help himself but propose the other women. Interesting. Well, the thing I'll say about Nick is that he reminds me of, in some ways, he reminds me of a teenager still. I'm not saying he's immature in every single way, because he has definitely said and done some things that I think are pretty mature and pretty rational. But just the way he comes off to me, it's like he's trying to be almost like a knight in shining armor, kind of. So for what I mean by that is, with Chelsea, for example, one of their conversations was him basically saying, oh, I'll cover the rent completely. I'll take care of you, So I just get this vibe like he is trying to maybe make up for something. And what I mean by that is maybe the bad relationship he has with his father, he's trying to, in a weird way, make up for that by being a better father and a better boyfriend / maybe one day husband. And Nikisha says, the Nikki, Victor, and Jack love triangle is continuing to play out. I think that's hilarious that after all these years, it's still around. I think you guys already know by now that I am definitely Team Nikki and Jack. So I'm hoping that this time Jack and Nikki actually develop a relationship and that it isn't ruined by her going back to Victor. Because I'd be pretty upset about that. And I think they've done that so many times that it would be nice to kind of break the traditional love triangle they have going on by having her do something completely different. Plus, even if she's not going to date Jack, I don't think Nikki should go back to Victor anyway, because part of the arc that I'm seeing with her character is that she's becoming strong enough where even if she does care about Victor, she's not going to subject herself to being with a guy like that who is manipulating everyone and loves to control people and only loves the people that he can control. Plus, has anyone noticed that her MS has not flared up since she's been away from Victor? Because to me, that's a huge indication that he is not right for her. Hey, Terrell. Terrell says, hi, Rachel. Sorry I'm late. Don't be sorry. Thanks for coming. And Sorry we had to push this a little bit early this week, guys, in the studio. That's what they needed us to do. So thank you all for tuning in early. I'm glad to have my co-hosts with me because you guys definitely make the show. Honey Smile 320 says, I love Hillary, one of my favorite villains on the show. I'd rather have Hillary over Lily. Lily as a character has always been hypocritical and boring in general. You know, I agree with you in that sense. She is a wonderful villain, and I'm actually really happy she's on the show. It's just that she does things and I'm like, no, why are you doing this? Like watching, I know this goes back to the week before, but her watching Victoria with Benjamin and secretly taking a video of it. No. And we'll get into this in a little bit, but everything that's happening with Hillary, Devon, and Jordan, pretty much everything Hillary does, I shake my head and I'm like, no, stop, don't. But you're right though, she is a great villain, and I think Victor's a great villain too, as long as people realize he is definitely the villain. Because sometimes I wonder if some of the characters on the show don't quite get that. Terrell says, I believe Nick will soon go after Victor over this whole Jack and Nikki mess. Yeah, maybe he will. And maybe, see, Nick, what he did at Nikki's concert was definitely erring more on the side, it was definitely making him seem more like Victor. So we know that there is a side of him that's like Victor, and we'll have to see what happens with that, because if he could do something like that, who knows what else he's capable of doing. Hubby Joe says, I can't stand Hillary. Yeah, I agree with you, but for the purposes of having her on the show, I think it's awesome because it does add a lot of conflict and tension that we wouldn't have otherwise. I mean, we need that character to make the other characters cringe and have painful moments, right? Otherwise, it wouldn't be a soap opera. So, all right, we kind of touched on Victor and Faith, and we got into Chelsea and Nick. The only other thing I'm going to say about Chelsea is everything that's happening with Faith's bedroom set. That was just another Victor moment. I was like, why are you even doing this? I get it. I get that he wants Faith to have a place in his house where she can come and have a bedroom she likes, but Chelsea, I felt bad for her. She designed this set. She was trying to do something nice for Faith to maybe lessen the blow, and I love how Chelsea was talking to Nick basically on Faith's behalf, saying this is going to be really like a bad adjustment for her because you didn't tell her first. She's coming home to something she doesn't know. I loved that moment, and I loved how Chelsea was acting about all this. So Nick, I was worried. I was wondering why he didn't quite see eye to eye with Chelsea on that. And this is a 10-year-old little girl, and they're putting her through so much, and Nick didn't seem to get that. Sharon kind of did, a little bit. And that was another comment I had too, was when Sharon, Nick, and Faith were all sitting together at the coffee shop. Why? So to me, and this could just be me, but it didn't feel like Sharon was that motherly toward her. Like in a way she was, but I don't know. It just seemed like she was a little more hands-off as a parent. I don't know if that's just me. I don't know what you guys think about that, but I just didn't sense a motherly, daughterly bond on the level that I thought it should be at. And I kind of sensed it a little more from Nick, which could explain why Faith stays with Nick most of the time. I'm imagining that before Nick was kicked out of the ranch, the reason why Faith only went with Sharon once a week was maybe because she was nearby anyway, so it didn't really matter. But now I'm wondering why it's not like a 50-50 split, or, because ordinarily the mother would get the child most of the time, and then the father would see the child on weekends or a couple times a week. So if you guys want to fill me in on why that is, if there is a reason, that would be awesome to know. But I definitely picked up a vibe that Sharon didn't seem as close with Faith as I would have imagined she'd be with her daughter, especially a 10-year-old. We have some comments in the chat. Honey Smile 320 says, I can't wait for Devon to go back to Hillary. She made Devon far more dimensional as a character. I think down the line she will have his baby. Yeah, okay, so that's the thing is that, and we can we can skip to talking about Hillary now. So, first of all, that lunch date, I won't say date, but that lunch conversation that Hillary and Devon had, I definitely picked up on the fact that Devon's definitely not over her. And I really think that they're pushing them back together at this point. I see it going that direction. Hillary is kind of crazy to me right now. The fact that first of all, she could sense that something's going on with Jordan and Lily. And Jordan definitely did the right thing and broke it off with her. And it's like she couldn't accept it. Like, it hurt her ego too much. Like, why wouldn't a guy want me? Kind of deal, which is another reason I don't like her as a character, but I do see her point for being on the show. But that I definitely like the fact that Jordan broke it off with her, and he wouldn't back down about it either. That was definitely the right thing to do instead of keep up a relationship with her. However, it's like right after he breaks up with her, now suddenly Hillary seems like she's all like, not obviously, but she does seem like she's kind of all over Devon. Like, okay, I'm single now. Well, let me try and win this other guy back. So we'll see what happens, but I definitely agree. I think that that's the direction the writers are pushing it in, and I could see them getting back together. I don't see Devon and Mariah making it because there's no chemistry really between the two of them, and it's like Mariah said she loved Devon under probably not so great circumstances, but she did. And Devon just kind of never exactly responded to it that much. So I still think that Mariah and Tessa should end up getting together, and we'll get to that in a second. But as far as Devon and Mariah, yeah, I just don't see it. And Devon even said during that lunch with Hillary and I think to Neil that it sounds like he's really just focusing on his career right now, and that's his number one priority. And I think that he might just be telling himself that too, because the one that he wants, Hillary, he's not with. Let's see what everyone's saying in the chat. So, okay, we have a couple of Kane comments, and that was a huge chunk too, so we'll definitely touch on that. Hubby Joe says, the best part of the show this week was Jordan dumping Hillary. Yeah, that was definitely a highlight for me. And the fact that Jordan handled it so gracefully, and he just kissed her on the forehead. He was very respectful about it, and then he left like a gentleman. That was a great moment, especially the fact that he didn't back down. And Nikisha says, I think Sharon being bipolar and going into Fairview a lot puts a strain on her relationship with Faith. Okay, so that answers it. It sounds like, from what I've heard, Sharon has had some issues in the past, which could definitely put a strain on a relationship between a mother and a daughter. Even with Sharon and Mariah, and I know that Mariah hasn't been around for that long, which could also be a reason, but even between the two of them, like, I sensed more of a friendship than a mother-daughter relationship too. Honey Smile 320 says, Lily will never leave her husband. She cheated on him 3 times. I think she feels guilty and will most likely forgive Kane and break Jordan's heart. He will crawl back to Hillary. Yeah, we can talk about that now. So, first of all, everything that's happening with Kane, did anyone else think when Kane was talking to Juliet that it kind of seemed like he really was starting to, I don't know about romantically care for her, but care for her in a way like, okay, this woman's having my baby and we're gonna start doing these things together. Like, he almost sounded the same way that he did when he would talk to Lily about them taking care of their family. So I hope Lily and Kane don't get back together, because at this point, I just see Kane getting too wrapped up in 2 different families. He strikes me as the kind of guy who he basically just says things he thinks people want to hear. So he's gonna help Juliet, and then he's gonna also help Lily. And I don't see it working well for him if he gets back with Lily. And I really love Lily and Jordan together. And that dinner with Jordan and Lily and the kids, it was amazing. I thought they worked so well as a family, and Jordan so obviously cares for Lily in a much deeper way than he ever cared for Hillary, and they're so right for each other. So I bet I wonder if your prediction is right. I hope it's not, because I really want to see Lily and Jordan together. And they're going to be traveling a lot together. They just seem to work very well together. So that would make me happy to see that happen, and to see them, even if Maddie and Charlie, yeah, obviously their dad is Kane and he will always be their father. But Jordan, just from that one little dinner conversation, he seemed to step up in a way that Lily needed, as well as the kids. And I just saw him being a really wonderful addition to the family. Hubby Joe says, I still think when Lily dumps him, he will turn to Juliet. I think what it is, because Lily is pretty much already dumped Kane, maybe not completely, and she hasn't given him a final answer about whether she's gonna file for divorce or not. But to me, it's like she really did just push him out of the picture, not completely, but for the most part. I feel like Kane is gonna try to win Lily to a certain point, but then once he gets the memo that he's losing, or I don't know, that maybe, because he stepped in on that dinner conversation, so he's going to start getting jealous of Jordan. If he starts realizing that he has no chance and that it's over for him, Kane to me seems like a quitter. So I could see him just saying, well, you know what, I'm not going to win. And then he says, hey, Juliet, let's go start our own family. I could see him doing that. Maybe not in that with those words, but in the Kane way, I could see him going to Juliet and deciding, well, you know what, she seems to be the only person who is supporting me and is understanding of what I did, which I don't know. With Juliet, I don't know what her deal is, but how could she be so supportive of the things that he's done? How could anyone be supportive of him lying like that to his wife, to his company? I feel like she's just doing it because she wants to win his graces and, win him in general. And then I don't know what she has planned after that. Terrell says, I don't expect Lily to fall down the cliff like her late mom years ago. Yeah, I think she's gonna, at this point, Lily seems like she doesn't want to date Jordan not because of him, but because she is still kind of wrapped up in a marriage that she doesn't know what's going on with Kane, yet. But I think that maybe, I honestly think that's where they're going to push it. I think that she will end up with Jordan, and whether she stays with him or not. But for now, anyway, I definitely think that's what they're pushing, and I hope it happens. Let's see, we have a couple other comments. Taylor says, I adore how Jordan wants to be there for Lily and her family. So do I. I think that was my ultimate moment of this week, when they were all sitting there, the four of them, as a family. And it just, to me, it felt so right. So I really hope that happens. Jordan and Lily, they seem like they're perfect for each other, and they're both so nice. That's the thing, too, is that Jordan, I know people, especially Lily, was upset when Devon was with Hillary, but Devon seems like, I don't know, he's more rough around the edges, whereas Jordan just seems like he is a nicer person in general, even though I know, like, he apparently has a history with Chelsea doing bad things, but in general, he just seems like a nicer person. So it's like, I just really did not want to see him with Hillary anymore. Honey Smile 320 says, I think Juliet is just lonely. She moved from a different country to the U.S. for a job, and then she lost her job. She's now pregnant. It's kind of sad. Yeah. I mean, I agree, and there does seem to be chemistry between Juliet and Kane. Even though I'm not a huge fan of Kane, I kind of do want to see him with Juliet. and I don't know what her plans are, and some of the things she does kind of irritate me, but I also really, in a weird way, sense chemistry between the two of them, and just, to me, it seems like it would be a good pairing. And they're both kind of outsiders now for different reasons, so they, as outsiders, they could come together and not be so lonely since they'd have each other. Taylor Jones says, I think the twins really need Kane there for them, but I completely understand why they don't want to be anywhere near him. I really want the twins to get more screen time together. Yeah, I definitely agree. Just them in general, Maddie and Charlie, I love the storylines that they have with them. I love that Maddie is very into her studies and is educated and is a very smart person. And I love that her internship is going so well and that basically she's doing these things that Neil and Devon just aren't doing as well as her. I honestly, this is my prediction with Maddie. I could see her becoming super amazingly successful, maybe even taking over when she's old enough, or starting her own company. And here we go. Terrell has a question. What would Malcolm Winters think about Kane and Juliet? You guys will have to tell me who Malcolm is. So I'm assuming that he is Neil's father, but correct me if I'm wrong. But we have a couple people saying that that's a great question. So if you guys have any comments about that or want to chime in what you think Malcolm Winters would think of Kane and Juliet, I would love to hear it, and I will read it out loud so everyone else can hear too. Honey Smile 320 says, I think Juliet is a character that won't last on the show. Same with Jordan. That's interesting. Yeah, I mean, sometimes you can just kind of tell who's going to last for a long time and who's not. We'll see what happens. I hope that Jordan lasts a while. And Juliet, I could take her or leave her, honestly. If she's going to get with Kane, then that would be cool. But if they're going to just write her off eventually, I wouldn't really care so much. What do you guys think? Okay, let me ask this. Who is your absolute favorite character right now who you would definitely not want to see written off the show? So there's that question. And while we're waiting for the chat here, let me move on and we can start talking about Tessa, Mariah, and everything going on with the sex ring. So, okay. So first of all, did anyone else think that Tessa was being kind of mean to Mariah? Even if it was understandable why she'd be acting this way, Mariah has already sworn that she wouldn't tell anyone about Crystal being Tessa's sister. So to me, because they're such good friends, you would think that Tessa would maybe trust Mariah a little bit more, I guess. She is trusting her, but at the same time, it just feels like Tessa's just completely on edge. Yeah, because her sister is going through all this, so I can understand that. But just the way that she's treating Mariah, it's like she's taking it out on her. I didn't like that, and I just, Mariah is just being a really wonderful friend. So that is kind of bothering me. Plus, the fact that Tessa would go and on her own and just decide she's going to try to find her sister, I didn't understand what she was thinking. Maybe she was worried that if she told Mariah, Mariah would then definitely tell Sharon and get the police involved. Possibly. But to me, it's like, you have this friend, you told her the truth about your sister. Why not open up to her and tell her what you're doing instead of risking your life and going off by yourself? That guy, whatever his name is, he could have seriously hurt her, and she didn't seem fazed by it, which really says to me that she's one tough person. But she is pretty lucky that she got out the way that she did. I'm pretty scared for Crystal, though. I'm just not sure what they're going to do with that and how Zach is involved with this, because I am pretty positive he is. And I still think Christine might be involved in this somehow too. But I guess we'll see. I just really want to get to the chase and find out what's going on with that. At least a little bit. A little more of a hint would be nice. Honey Smile 320 says, I think Tessa is confused about her feelings for Mariah, and she's dealing with the stress of trying to find her sister. Yeah, I could see that, and I understand it because it's yeah, it's hard. Like if you can't, Tessa feels like her hands are tied. She feels responsible for everything going on with her sister. She's gonna feel a certain way about it. It's just hard as a viewer to see her treating Mariah like that. But yeah, you're probably right. Part of it is probably that she's confused about how she feels, and I really want to see what they do with the two of them too, because I still think they'd be better together than Tessa and Noah and Mariah and Devon. Taylor Jones says that his absolute favorite characters are Mariah, Nikki, and Noah. I don't want them written off. Also, Victoria, absolutely loving her. Yeah, I agree. I think Mariah is my favorite character by far. I do like Nikki. I like Jack too, even though he has his moments. I don't know, like half the time he's like comic relief anyway, just the way that he handles certain things and the reactions that he gives. Also, I don't know what you guys thought about this, but when we saw the flashback of Jack as a young boy watching his mother with the father saying, "Yeah, well, I don't feel very fulfilled in this relationship." I felt really bad for him, and I think he's had a very hard childhood. So I definitely like Jack. I mean, of course, he probably won't get written off, but I just wanted to say he's one of my favorite characters. Honey Smile 320 says, I would keep Hillary, Billy, Phyllis, Jack, Victor, and Victoria. Get rid of Abby, Neil, Robbie, and Mariah. With Abby, I don't really care about her either way. I wouldn't say she's one of my favorites, but I don't dislike her either. Same thing with Neil. Robbie, I actually kind of like him because I think he's funny too. Like I'll never forget him taking the surfboard into the office. So I do like Robbie. I like his relationship with Ashley too. And Hubby Joe says, I agree. Tessa was wrong. She is not thinking straight. And then we have Rodalie DeMille, and I'm so sorry if I said your name wrong. She says, Hillary and Devon should get back together. Yeah, I agree. And then Taylor says, I like Jack too. Yeah. Thank you. Team Jack. Anyway, moving along. All right. So we touched on Tessa and the sex ring, and I thought it was pretty cool how Sharon at least attempted to get the license plate of that guy. I didn't know what she was thinking trying to take a picture of the side of the car, but hey, she tried, and it's the thought that counts. All right, we touched on Lily and Jordan, Hillary and Jordan, Kane and Juliet. Because I'm Team Jack, I do have to comment on the fact that Nikki and Jack have basically said they're going to try to stay together. And okay, they already had this conversation, but in all fairness, when they had it the first time, they were up in the cabin when everything was amazing and they weren't dealing with real life. So the fact that they would have the conversation at Jack's office and they still basically agreed they were going to try to be together no matter what happens with Victor says a lot to me anyway, and says that hopefully they will, try to work something out. So there's basically two more things I want to talk about before we get to our law moment. So let's just touch on everything going on with Billy for a second. What do you guys think he's up to? Obviously, he broke into he was talking to Dina, got her password, tried to get into her computer. But what do you guys think he's going to do with that? Do you think he's going to try to make Jack look bad? Or, I mean, obviously, it's all about messing with Jack, but do you think he's going to try to mess with the files and get Jabot to look terrible and have to, I don't know, basically just to make them look bad? Or do you think that he's just going to get information and use it for Brash and Sassy's benefit, or what? We saw the preview for next week, and it looked like he either is about to tell Victoria what he's doing, or he has told Victoria. But I'll be curious to see what he does with that. And then, oh, here's a big thing too. When Abby is talking to Dina, and Abby's very curious about this Brent. She's very curious about this Brent character. And then Ashley and Dina have a conversation where they basically say they don't want Abby to know the truth, that it sounds like Brent is actually Ashley's father. Is this a brand new revelation, or is this something that we would already know, for people who have been watching a long time? Because it sounds like the Brent character has come in to the storyline a bunch of times. Because they made a specific point to say that not only did it happen when Jack's parents were first married, but Brent came back in the 80s too. Honey Smile 320 says, I think Billy is going to play on Jack's mother's age and get company information. You know what? That sounds completely, sounds like a good prediction. That sounds like something he would do. I personally think that this is going to cause a major strain between Phyllis and Billy. I already didn't see them working out, but now I definitely don't see them working out. And all along, to me, Victoria has been the one that Victoria is Billy's partner. That's who he should be with, not Phyllis. She's at the other company. I don't want Phyllis with Jack either, but I don't see her with Billy. Taylor says Billy is definitely scheming and planning something. And then Hubby Joe says that Billy's going to steal a client. Yeah, that sounds like a pretty legitimate prediction too. Honey Smile 320 says, I think Devon is going to break Mariah's heart, and that's when Tessa will fall for Mariah. Yeah, because in that aftermath, it's going to be Mariah's turn to crumble, and Tessa will definitely be the friend that's there to basically pick up the pieces. So, all right, so those were basically the last two things that I wanted to talk about today before we get to our lull moment. So I guess let's get to our lull moment, and I can tell you guys what I thought was super funny this week. Had to wait for that. Okay, so this week I chose that awkward moment when Robbie and Ashley basically they were with Jack in the office, and they were all talking about the cabin, and Robbie and Ashley just kept kind of glancing at each other, and then Jack, when they left, after he was basically asking them if they enjoyed their time together, Jack gave this hilarious grin like, yep, I know those two were up to something. So that to me was the funniest moment. I'm sure we didn't really see too much of Gloria, if anything, from what I remember, but I'm sure if she had been in this, there would have been others. But this week, Jack, Robbie, and Ashley, they get the lull moment. All right, so, Honey Smile 320 says, Phyllis and Jack are still married. Interesting. And Rodelli says, Phyllis is the other woman. Billy and Victoria belong together. Yeah, I completely agree with you. And let's see. Oh, Taylor says, Billy and Victoria forever. I agree. I definitely agree. And, Honey Smile says, I think the truth will come out that Ashley is not a real Abbott, and that will change Abby's perspective on being a Newman. If anything, you know what I think it would do? It would make her relate more to the Newman family, and I predict that when she finds out, she's gonna basically let go of the Abbotts. Maybe not Dina, because she seems to have a good relationship with her, but she would basically feel more like a Newman than an Abbott and get closer to Victor because of it. And the other thing is, I wonder if Abby would try to find her real grandfather and he would come back into the show again, if he was ever on the show. That I don't know. And, Hubby Joe says mushroom, because that is one of the things that Robbie was talking about that they were doing up at the cabin, was finding mushrooms or something. Yeah, among other things. Anyway, I think that about wraps up our show for today. Thank you guys again for being amazing co-hosts. It was a wonderful show today, getting to talk with you guys about this. And I will definitely see you guys next week. We should be back at the normal time, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. So I will see you guys next week. Have a great week.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.